Matt, hey, congratulations on your new film, Aladdin 3477, The Jinn of Wisdom.
Thank you so much, Gig. Very exciting.
You know what? I do find these type of films actually fun, and I love the imagination because this is a film, and don't get me wrong, I watch films like this because as a younger person, I probably watched Star Wars: A New Hope like 50 times, and as got older, I watched Fifth Element like probably
Yes.
another 30, 40, 50 times. And I find that Aladdin 3477, the film you make, was actually pulling, elements out of these type of movies, these space operas, even though we didn't really go into space.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the Fifth Element. You're the first person to do that, but Fifth Element was a huge inspiration. Um, Prior to that, obviously Star Wars, but the great thing about Fifth Element was having it in the future, but also it felt a little bit more global. It wasn't just in, the United States in the future, but it just had such a flavor to it that was really inspiring to me for sure.
So let's go to the beginning here for your film Aladdin 3477. What actually sparked you to come up with this story?
Well, originally, what I wanted to do is I wanted to make my own Star Wars. I wanted to have my own huge sci-fi epic series of films, which I started drawing as a graphic novel. And I fell in love with my story, but I realized early on it's very similar to Aladdin, and it didn't have a genie, it didn't have a magic lamp. So I kept trying to change it, but it just never had the magic that I liked. Well, when I realized that Aladdin is in the public domain and that I could simply just make an Aladdin film, I didn't like that idea either because I thought that was kind of cheesy. But over time, it became interesting, and I was almost like a challenge. Well, what if I did this? Well, I can't outdo Robin Williams, but what if I did a djinn instead of a genie? And what if it was more like a mentor role? And so things just kind of got. It was almost like a challenge that I really thought was interesting, and so it was kind of born out of that. But it was never an overnight, just like I know Aladdin in space. Let's do that. You know.
So basically, you revisited Shahrazadi's Arabian Nights. Um, Obviously, Aladdin is a huge part of it, but I guess the big question is how much of the 1001 stories that you wanted to pull into your film, and we'll talk about it in a moment, your trilogy.
Yeah. Well, quite a bit. It's interesting the differences in the original material, and that's the only thing that I was able to work with. Obviously, I couldn't use anything specific to Disney, so I had to be I had to really research what does Disney own and what is from the book. So in the book, the princess is only referred to as the princess. Disney calls their princess Jasmine, so obviously we couldn't name our princess Jasmine. So there's a lot of things like that that were really interesting. There's also two genies in the story. Aladdin has a magic ring. There's all kinds of really, really interesting differences. So I tried to just pull my own. Um, I just used all the parts that I thought were really interesting. Plus, I had my own story from my own sci-fi epic that I wanted to write. So it really was kind of a melding. I think Disney did an awesome job, and this isn't that. It's not. It's not as much for kids, and I'm not obviously the Disney version is amazing, but I think I was able to do something kind of special too. Using enough of the sort of the original source material, but kind of doing my own flavor with it.
No, I agree. As people have a chance to watch it, they will realize it's just not just a rehash of the original Arabian Nights or the Disney version, that you came up with your own version for this film.
Yep,
But but
absolutely.
but you all you by coming up with your own version, you want to basically come up with your own taste and flavor. Tell us about the new characters that you want to introduce into the storyline, because one of the characters that I will have to remark that I fell in love with is Oomi, and
Yeah.
that is a delightful character. And if I recall, that's not part of the
No,
original
no.
1001
Yeah,
stories.
yeah. I thought it would be interesting for a number of reasons. Umi was a character that was in my original story, but also there's a lot of things about Aladdin. When you watch the Disney version, there's a lot of things that I felt that, like, when you really dissect the story, what is the story? And it almost seems like, man, if you just, you fall in love with a princess, all you need is a genie. Like, is that the moral of the story? So I wanted to be a little bit more realistic. The fact that Aladdin is a thief in the Disney version, it's real easy to make him the hero because he steals, but then he gives bread to little kids. That's so sweet. And I feel like it's not in real life, it's not as easy as that. So our Aladdin is a little bit more of a scoundrel. He's almost not very likable in this first film.
Mhm.
And so what I wanted to do, because Aladdin has his own, he kind of has his own man cave that he creates his own robots. By no means is he well to do, but I really thought it would be interesting to have another character that really is down and out and really is an underdog character. And I think a lot of people are going to be rooting for Umi after they see this film for sure.
No, I agree. Aladdin is a different Aladdin in this case because you could tell he's much more relevant as a street rat because he's a little bit more selfish. He's basically all about survival.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's going to be neat because going into this, everyone knows the Aladdin story, so they kind of have expectations with the princess and the Jinn, who obviously is very different. But I think it's great because Umi is a character that you don't really even see that much in the trailer, and I think it's really fun because people get to really discover this character throughout the film without having any expectations. And I think it's a fun balance where parts of the story people feel like they know and it's familiar, but then there's something new that, like, what is this? Where are they going with this? And I think Umi is one of those characters. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Bridge is a lot of fun too. With the fuzzy hat and the the ears. I think he's a lot of fun.
Now, of course, Aladdin 3477 is just the first film and I want to say it's a trilogy, right?
That is correct. And we actually filmed all three of them back to back. So they're all in the can. There's already rough edits of the second two. So it's not even a matter of, a lot of times people are afraid to make an investment seeing a film. Like, even if they hear, oh, there's going to be two more, they feel like, well, yeah, they always say that. And then if the numbers aren't good, then they don't make any more. But the next two films are happening for sure, so it'll be I think it's a fun investment. And I think a lot of people, especially seeing the first one, I feel like they'll definitely want to see the next two. And as much as I'm proud of the first one, it's actually my least favorite of the three films.
Hmm.
So I say that not to, like, oh, it's not his favorite, it must not be that good. It's just that the second two are that much more interesting and compelling, like where the story is going. And I can't wait for those. But I'm so tickled the first one's coming out. It's after all this time, like it feels so good.
Now, just like Star Wars, which there is an Easter egg in your first film for that, are
Yeah.
you planning to introduce more characters down the road? And is there like much more about Princess Kamala in this case?
Absolutely. And in fact, the second film, you're going to see a lot more of the princess. And that was one of the things that was kind of difficult with these films. It really is act one, act two, and act three. In this first act, we meet the princess, but we really don't see a lot of the story kind of through her eyes, and you're going to see a lot more of that in the second film. And I think it makes everything more interesting. But this first film is really more about just setting up the universe, some great adventures with Aladdin, and this is really what kind of propels him on his journey. And it's going to be really interesting when Aladdin and the princess. Well, I shouldn't even say, but it's going to get real. Once you've seen the movie, I think you can see that things are about to get interesting.
Now, like I said before, I love space operas. And the thing that most impressed me, and the reason why I brought up Fifth Element, is your practical production sets. Okay. Tell us about the universe you actually created, because this is why we watch, this type
Yeah,
of film,
yeah,
because the world that you actually create, the cities, the costumes, the characters, the people. Tell us how
yeah,
you actually approach it, and why did you went with practical in this world building
yeah.
for the action scenes? Yes.
It's so neat because now it seems like there's a big resurgence in practical effects. But when I kind of began this journey 15 years ago, most people were still doing CGI. Well, I've always loved practical effects, but also, because a lot of this was just kind of made by myself with my own budget, I didn't really have access to really, really good CGI because I'm not opposed to it, but I just didn't have, I kind of looked around locally and see what fit my budget, and just the quality wasn't that great. And I didn't want to have like video game effects where, they're just not quite there. So it was way more interesting for me to do everything in camera. And it was so fun building miniatures and doing, forced perspective shots and having mechanical puppets for robots was so delightful. It was one of my favorite aspects of it. And the great thing about it, there is still some CGI with things like holograms. There is a little bit of 3D animation, but if we ever did it, it was never for characters or visual effects. It was to like erase a wire so you couldn't see, or if there was a pole that was puppeteering something, but something was moving in the background, it was hard to fix. We would farm out just to have CGI replacing the area in the background. So if there is any CGI, it's nothing that people would even notice. Everything that you're looking at, and it's not that it's a perfect special effects film, it's a little bit quirky, hopefully in a good way, but everything you're looking at, whether it's a ship flying in the background or a robot, it's all real light and shadow. There's some compositing, but everything you're looking at is real, and I think it's just got a nice. There's something about it that's just kind of it's a little bit handmade, but I just think it's charming, you know. Um, so I love it, and I hope people can appreciate it for that as well.
I'm curious. Did you when you did this the story, did you storyboard it as if it was like a graphic novel from frame to frame, from picture to picture?
I'm so glad you asked that because right here, these are all of the storyboards just from the first film. So yeah.
Wow.
Oh, and I'm probably flipping it the wrong way since the images are on this side.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
So
is
there's a lot, and there's actually an art book coming out next year, the art of the first film, and it has most of the storyboards. It has the production paintings that I did, and that was super helpful. Not only making the movie, but when I set out to do this with family and friends, and also local talent that I was hiring, this was a big project, and so who am I? Like, how are people going to believe in me and really give me their time? So it was really funny when I was auditioning actors, it was almost me more trying to sell it to them than it was the other way around, because I just wanted them to know, like, look, this is what it's going to look like. This is what I'm planning out. Because you never know. Sometimes with independent films, things fall apart, and um anything can and sometimes does go wrong. So I just wanted people to know I'm in it to win it, whatever it takes. And it's been a long journey. I'm so glad man, there were plenty of times I wanted to quit, but I'm glad I stuck it through.
Now, let me also address the casting because you know
Yeah.
casting is always important. And you said you did local casting for yourself.
Mhm.
Tell us about like Eric and Lynn that made it perfect for your film and everybody
Yeah,
else.
I had a pretty good blend of having people that I knew and then also casting professionals. And in the case of Eric, who plays Aladdin, he was fantastic. I still did a casting call, but Eric is also a filmmaker, so he was really easy to work with. He also loves stunts and loves I kind of was inspired by Sam Raimi and everything that he put Bruce Campbell through making the Evil Dead movies. So Aladdin gets covered in slime and muck and gets, tossed around and flails through walls and stuff. And he loved every minute of that. And that was a huge part of it, which was great. Everyone had to do their own stunts. And then Lindsay, who plays Oomi, also fantastic. She's an incredible martial artist, and also was just such a delight. Really brought her A game to creating this fun character. But definitely, she probably had the most physical um, uh, just working on this film. She also did a lot behind the scenes. Everyone did. Everyone came together. There were actors on days they weren't filming. Sometimes just to help out, they would come and hold a boom mic, or they would just stand there and hold a smoke machine. Like everyone really pulled through, which was amazing.
I and with your universe because for this film you basically based it in like Hong Kong, India,
Mm-hmm.
Bangkok, which is my actual home city.
Oh,
It's
awesome.
itself.
Yeah,
I of course have to adore the Asian influences because it's very Blade Runner-ish, but with
yeah,
the not as quite dark.
yeah.
Are we expanding that world in the next two movies?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's interesting because most people think of Aladdin as taking place perhaps well, obviously it comes from the book Arabian Nights, and in the Aladdin film, it's a fictional city, but seems like it might be in the Middle East somewhere. Although some would argue that Agrabah, the palace looks like the Taj Mahal. Also, it's called Agra Ba, which that's where the Taj Mahal is in India. But I thought it would be really interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but the Arabian Nights book, the story of Aladdin actually takes place in China, and Aladdin is Chinese. So I thought it would be really interesting to kind of split the difference, have more of a global adventure, and have a really cool kind of Hindi flair to it. I thought was because I just think that that whole culture is just so fascinating. And then before I even finished writing the film, I actually did some world travels, went to Thailand, which was absolutely beautiful. Just fell in love with all of those countries over there. But Thailand, oh my gosh, was just amazing. Both Bangkok and also places like Chiang Mai that were just so serene and beautiful, and riding elephants, and just blew my mind. Um so that was fantastic. We do go to Thailand again for something completely different in the films. It was just really inspiring to me. I thought that would just be a really fun place to have the global adventure take place.
No complaints from the peanut gallery over here. So
Awesome. Awesome.
Matt, I'm gonna throw a hypothetical question
Yeah.
to
Okay.
you. If you did actually have like the 100, 200, or $300 million budget, would you do something different, or would you are you perfectly happy what you produced?
I think for the next two films, as much as it would be great to just be able to hand it off, throw money at it for someone else to finish it. I feel like, for better or for worse, the magic, the charm of this first film is the practical effects and is the way that we did it. So I feel like for these movies, that would be a disservice to kind of do them any other way. And as much as making these films was really difficult because we were working with people's schedules, trying to get everyone in the same place at the same time, that slowed things down. We had an industrial space that we were renting. We could only build one. We only had room for one set at a time. So we would build a set and then we would shoot. Then we'd have to tear it down, and then it could be 2 months before we had the next set. It could be a year. It really took a long time. So, um, I think what was great though is having more time. It gave me more time to really work out the costumes, and it gave me more time to, I was editing along the way and I could show the actors what the scenes were looking like, and it helped them really get to understand their characters more as we kind of went along. So as much as it was a challenge, there were also advantages from kind of having this little uh family friend, kind of based group. We really were a family, and I think there were definitely some advantages there. In the future, if I had a bigger budget, I would probably take advantage of that, because this was just a really long, huge project. And I'm really jealous of other indie filmmakers that can crank out a movie in less than a year, and they can just film it in their living room and people can just wear the clothes they have.
Mhm.
Or if there's, they need transportation from one place to another, hey, you've got a really cool pickup truck and they can just go. Like, I mean, we had to make everything, every costume, every set, every prop. We filmed most of it in Michigan, and I didn't want it to look like Michigan, and I didn't want it to look like modern day. So everything was a challenge, but in the future, it would be nice to, um, gosh, if I had a budget, that would be amazing. That would be a nice change for sure. But I wouldn't want to do that. I think that would really change the flavor for the next two films if suddenly I just handed it off and just threw money at every situation that comes up. I think that would be it would change it.
Well said, well said. Well, let me wrap it up with, and I'm going to let you close it out, Matt. When are we going to get to see these movies?
Well, the first one comes out January 3rd on Apple TV Plus, Amazon Prime, Fandango at home, all kinds of great places. And then it'll continue the rollout with DVD and Blu-ray, and then AVOD, where you'll be able to see it in places like Tubi. But the next two films, it's just a matter of finishing them and getting them out there. I don't really have an expected release date yet, because things always take longer than you think. I mean, there's a rough edit, but there's still visual effects and editing and sound and music and everything else. But it definitely isn't going to take as long as it did for the first film. So I'm just very excited. I can't wait for people to immerse themselves in this world, and then two and three are around the corner.
Well, I can't wait to circle back and speak with you again, Matt, especially for two and three, because you know what? This is in my wheelhouse. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
Matt, thank you very much for carrying this conversation about Aladdin 3477, the Jinn of Wisdom. I will circle back and let's do this again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye bye.